Hey there, it's Diane Forster. Welcome to I Have Today, the show that inspires, empowers, and educates you. And we talk about the art of intentional living. And I am very honored and thrilled to have my guest today, which is Dame Doria Cordova, also known as DC. This woman has impacted the lives of hundreds of thousands of people in the world with her incredible work. She is the CEO and owner of Accelerated Business Schools and the Money and You program. I will give you all the details about her when she comes up, but I wanted to bring her on today because her work has had profound effects on so many people in the world. Major big name people all go to Doria for this training. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about is her incredible program, Money and You, which I plan on going to. I can't wait to talk about that. And then also about what's going on in this time right now. And we named this episode, our theme today is the most lucrative entrepreneurial window the world will ever see. And this is based on what's happening with technology and energy and what's going on. And it's a fascinating thing. You know, there are more billionaires being created right now than ever before, and that's going to accelerate for a while. And so there's a relationship that we have with money. And part of the reason why there's so many people who are successful in this area is because they're mission driven. They're focusing on big world problems, solving big world problems. And Doria's out there doing it. And, you know, we're launching a television network later this year, and we're doing it. We're launching the I Have Today TV network, which is the first transformational and personal development network for women between the ages of 40s, 50s, 60s, where every resource available for her is going to be available on this television network as she navigates through transitions in her life, personally and professionally. Because what I discovered is that is one of the most overlooked, underserved markets out there in terms of resources. And she's going through so much. It is the number one age group for depression. Can you believe that? It's not the youth. It's not what we think. It's women in this second chapter. And so I wanted to have Doria on because I want to learn from her, someone who is making huge impact in the world. I want to learn from the best of the best. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted to have her on selfishly, but I also wanted to introduce her to you. So whatever it is you're working on, what level of mission are you at with it? And don't you want to know what she knows and what's going on, why this time in history is truly the most powerful, most lucrative. And it's because of solving big world problems, which leads me into today's intention statement, which is, I have today to solve large scale social issues. You know, one of the things that I've discovered, our perception is reality. And someone who worked in the media industry for a lot of years, and I worked at ABC for many years, I learned, it takes just as much time to put a media package together for WABC in New York as it does for, WTVG in Toledo, Ohio. And takes the same amount of effort to do that. But, the results of where the money comes in is obviously very different because they're different size markets. And so what I learned in my life is it's just as easy, if not easier, to solve a bigger problem than it is a smaller problem. And it's so much in the perception and the way that we think. So if you're out there and you want to make impact in the world, what if you thought a little bit higher, a little bit bigger? My mission is to touch the lives of 1 billion women who don't know their self-worth, to discover their true divinity, power, and purpose. And you know, 1 billion women it's every woman between the ages of 45 and 64. I didn't know that. Spirit gave me that number, but that's the impact that I want to have in the world. And so, what if you thought a little bit bigger today? And I want to talk to Doria about that and get her perspective too. Well, she's going to come on in just a minute, and she's got an incredible background story. And when I first learned it, it broke my heart, and I loved her perseverance through her life and how mission driven she is. And you're going to love her too. So she's going to be on with us in just a second. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor, the Spifter. This week's episode of I Have Today is brought to you by the Spifter. The Spifter is a fun sifting spoon that makes cooking, baking, and decorating with sugars and spices so much fun. No more mess or wasting your spices. It's fast, clean, and easy. Everything looks and tastes delicious. It's also great for straining loose tea, getting pesky broken cork out of your wine glass, and draining liquid off food like olives and capers. Whether you're a novice cook or a gourmet chef, you'll love the results. The Spifter, the kitchen gadget that no kitchen should be without. Hello, Doria. So good to see you. So beautiful. Oh, I can't hear you.
I won one of those.
You did?
I did. I won one. I want one of those.
Oh, you want one of them? Oh, yes. Well, you know, they're mine. I invented those. So we're going to send you one. Yes. Team, make a note of that. Let's send Doria one. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes. So good to have you here. All right. So before we get into our interview, I want to share a little bit about you with everyone. CEO, owner of Accelerated Business School's Money and You program, the organization that brought to the world experiential, transformational, entrepreneurial education, now both on and offline, since 1979, with over 165,000 graduates from over 85 countries. Doria is doing this work. This program has inspired some of the best known business, education, and wealth experts and has touched the lives of millions globally. She is a humanitarian, philanthropist, and author, and has been in countless webinars, podcasts, films, book series. Most currently, she has developed the Fridays with Doria weekly global event to support her network of friends. She is the global business developer for organizations that are in alignment with her purpose to uplift humanity's consciousness through socially responsible businesses. Just love that. One of her missions is to transform educational systems around the world and eradicate poverty and hunger. All the endeavors that she is involved in must be in alignment with that mission. I love that so much. Welcome. Welcome. Yeah. Well, we're so grateful to have you here. All right. So Doria, how did you get into this? What is your background story?
Well, very quickly, I actually grew up in the legal system, and that actually happened out of me being so afraid of the start of my adult life. I had a very, very rough start. When I was 18 years old, my fiance was killed in a car accident a month before we were going to be married. But I was very, very young. Back in the 60s, you got married when you were 18. Yes. And there's certain groups of people that still do that with their children. You know, they get married at 18, but nowadays it's a very different story. And I miscarried his baby. I didn't know that I was pregnant until a few months later, and I miscarried his baby literally like 5 months after, and it was during his birthday. I was so traumatized, and that was the beginning. And I shut down completely for 8 years. And I went into the legal field. First, I was an assistant legal secretary. I was an interpreter, and then I became a court reporter, and I was looking at becoming an attorney. So I spent 8 years in the legal field. And when I was 26 years old, I was very blessed, and I had an enlightenment experience. And that enlightenment experience told me that I had a job to do, that I wasn't to be here just a party girl. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting in what was then the first human potential major training, the S training that went into landmark education. Within months, I was in front of Buckminster Fuller, one of the greatest humanitarians, philanthropist, thinker, one of the 100 top humans in Time magazine for the 20th century. And he spoke to my heart, which is really that there was sufficiency in the planet, that since the early 70s, this was 1977, I was 27 years old, and he basically said in the early 20s, in the early 70s, it was already, the planet had enough resources for everyone to have enough water, enough food, shelter. There was sufficiency. But the world had not even started to catch up. They actually haven't caught up yet. Not the world. A lot of us have. And and my heart, I knew that I had to retire as a court reporter and go looking for my purpose. But I didn't know that. I didn't call it that. A lot of times we don't have names for what we're doing. And then the following year, I met the people that created the industry, which is the entrepreneurial, experiential, transformational training industry, which now has over 200,000 graduates from many countries, over 85 countries.
85 countries. Yeah, I read that.
And,
Yeah.
and so I became a student. I fell in love with the work. It was in alignment with what I was feeling that I was supposed to go through. And again, please, now we look back 45 years since I did the business school. And, I can speak it, but please just be aware that you just have to follow the clues, follow your heart, follow the money in many ways. And by 1979, at 29 years old, I was running this organization. 6 years later, my mentors went on to do other things, and I inherited the work. I acquired the intellectual property, and I've been doing that ever since.
It's so incredible how that's fast. 2 years later, 27 years old, you're a court reporter, you get this, you have this wake up moment, didn't quite know where it was, but you knew you had to follow it. And then 2 years later, oh, wow. It's amazing.
It was small. It was just like Money and You. The principal program was the Business School for Entrepreneurs, which was the first of its kind. And then I kept asking them for a job, and they created from the leftovers, which is hilarious because Money and You is known as being one of the greatest entrepreneurial programs that churns out social entrepreneurs. And it was like the leftovers. They did a program called Money and You, and the name was chosen during a dinner. Marshall Thurber, Bobby DePorter created this work, and they were asking Marshall, what are you going to call this? He goes, oh, it's about money, it's about you. I'll call it Money and You. And it was one of the greatest branding. And when I trademarked it, the only thing that saved me, attorneys, trademark attorneys cannot believe I was able to trademark two of the most popular words in the world.
Right.
And the reason was because of all the years that I had been doing it.
It's so fantastic. Talk a little bit about Money and You and what it is for those who don't.
It got shrunk down to 3.5 days, and it's 3.5 days of 65% experiential games and exercises. We put, gamification on the planet. My mentors, Marshall and Bobby, learned from the creator of super learning, of Suggestopedia, Georgie Lawsonoff. And it's a combination of the teachings of Buckminster Fuller, Georgie Lawsonoff, the creator of experiential training, definitely Edward Deming, the productivity genius, and Ilya Prigogine, the man who won a Nobel Prize in chemistry for the theory of dissipative structures. What we have done is we apply principles of nature, generalized principles. Leverage is a generalized principle. Actually, gravity is a generalized principle. And then there's another one called precession, which is the physics of ripple effects. And through all these experiential games, people go through a process for 3.5 days that allows for them to really be able to instill our business success model. And you're going to have a link later for the for the main page where people can go ahead and download for as a gift for that. I love to give educational gifts. And what happens for them is not only do they begin to really see the world of possibilities for themselves, but they also learn a profound business success model that is used everywhere. When you look around and you understand the model, you will see that it is used everywhere, but also they kind of go back because of the games to let go and release. And it's not emotional, really. Some parts are emotional, but it's really conversations in the debriefs where they discover that they have made major decisions about money, how they have made themselves wrong about mistakes that they have made. And Buckminster Fuller taught us that our life is designed to learn from mistakes. So making people wrong for making mistakes is one of the biggest fallacies of our educational system, of business, of organizations. And so when you shift from what theory you are functioning on the planet, that by the way is Edward Deming teaching, from what theory. So when you shift from, oh, I'm stupid, I'm wrong, I don't know what I'm doing, I'll never make it, to, oh, life is a process of mistakes. I'm actually having learning experiences. Marshall Thurber, we all learned that from Buckminster Fuller, that in life, there are no mistakes, there are only learning experiences. And then when you understand that we are all moved, whether you believed in them or not, whether you like it or not, we are all being driven by generalized principles. And most people fight them, and they fight the invisible, they fight the what is really happening, what they fight reality without having the ability, without realizing that they have the ability to change that reality. And it's such a profound process of understanding yourself and then people's life when they understand precession, the generalized principle of ripple effects. Their lives profoundly change, because now it's not about how much money you're going to make, but what value can you add, create an economic engine around that purpose, around that work, and money will be a precessional effect. It will be a ripple effect. But those people that just focus on money and money, money, what happens in their lives is very different than someone that is purpose driven.
That's so good, Doria. I have never heard of that precession. This is the first time in my life. Well, I can't wait to go. I'm going. I can't wait to go. And actually, I'm glad that you're doing it. The next one, you said the dates are, hang on, I got them here. When I
March
know
29th. March 29th through April 1 in Dallas.
Yes.
The Great Spirit has taken us to Dallas. Of all the, we used to be in Austin in the 80s when Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad was my business partner. And just remember that the first Rich Dad book is still to this day the number one financial literacy book on the planet. 32 million people read that book. Now that, people think, oh, 32 million is nothing. Well, it's all the effect. We actually have impacted the lives of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world for 44 years because of the work that our graduates have done. So like Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Tony Robbins, Paul Mitchell, the hair man who passed away in 89, but Paul DiGioia took Paul Mitchell products to $1 billion. Ben and Jerry, Ben Cohen, they sold their business for 265 million, and they're the greatest humanitarians. So it's not so much what you do personally, it's the precessional effects of the work that you do that really counts.
This is giving me goosebumps. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. I'm so glad that you're doing this work in the world, and you've been doing it since your reinvention, that's what we call it, right? That reinvention of finding your purpose and pivoting to do this. So, and you're still going strong. You're so active. You're so busy. You're so heart-centered. Let's talk about why you believe that we are moving into what we call the, most lucrative entrepreneurial window that the world will ever see. What is happening?
Well, that's really interesting that you should make that quote because that was pulled out of me by a very young man in Sydney, Australia. He interviewed me for hours and hours and hours, and I had never really said those words, and he put it together. And the reason is because if you look at technology, and I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to explain history very
Please,
quickly
please
from
do. This is
Buckminster Fuller.
fascinating. This is so fascinating.
So originally we were, cave people. Then, fire was invented and all these things occur. Well, humans for thousands and thousands of years were cave people. And then somewhere along the line, people discover to use animals and the domestication of animals and to be able to invent because humans are so creative, they invented different tools and that created the agrarian age, which lasted for thousands of years. And just so you know, the printing press was actually designed in 14 something by the great creator of the printing press, but it wasn't automated until around 1820, 1830. But it is known that around 1850 became the start of the Industrial Revolution. It's like people argue about it, whether it's 1800, 1820, who cares? It's in that stage. But
Window.
around 1850 was, okay, the revolution, the Industrial Revolution is here. Then you see my friend Mo Rock, who has the LA Tribune was started in 1886. Newspapers came in and all that. And then Buckminster Fuller was born in 1895. And Bucky talks about that by the time he was 27 years old, which I found incredible. He kept talking about when he was 27, because that was when he changed my life at 27. He was talking about the speed of how things had picked up and occurred. Technology no longer, we had cars, we had electricity, we had radio, we had telegrams, we had this ability to communicate. And then you go to the next age, which is, and again, people argue about it, but it's silly because they call it the atomic age, they call it the information age, they call it all these things. They think it first started in 1945 because of the atomic bomb. And then people say, no, it started in 1957 when the Russian put Sputnik, the space age and all this and that.
Yes.
But all along now, information today, I think it doubles every 4 hours. Right now. And with artificial intelligence and all the technologies that are coming in, it's probably going to be, I don't know, a year, 5 years. I have no idea. It's probably going to be doubling like this, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can predict these things. And the precession effect, precession is in every area of our lives because the precession effects of what we now can do. And there are many people who are afraid of artificial intelligence, people like Elon Musk who, God forbid, why anybody gave him a megaphone. It's like, I get it. It's impressive. It's impressive to be quote unquote the richest man on the planet, which he isn't anymore. And I never believe these names that are the richest people in the world. If you have been in the Asia Pacific region since I have been there since 1985, and most of my network is in the Asia Pacific region, the first thing you need to know about Asians, they do not like to talk about how much money they have. They give their money away to all their children, to companies and all this. The only
Yeah.
time that you find the mega rich nations is when the companies are taken public and they say, oh, so and so, he's the richest man in China. And everybody, you will mention a name in China about being the richest, everybody laughs and they go, yeah, he's a good face for the richest man in China, because they are I truly believe that's either in China or the Middle East that we have the richest people on the planet. And there's not one man, it's families. That's a whole other show. So
Yeah.
now you have Elon Musk goes out there and goes, oh, we have to be afraid of AI. Yes, every time a new technology comes in, including crypto, when you look at all these different technologies, Look how long it has taken us to do renewables. I mean, that has been around. Thank God to the global paradigm shift that happened in 1971 with the oil shortage, when the Arabs at that time says, okay, we're not going to give you any more oil. I was 21 years old, and we had to take turns in standing in huge lines every other day, your license plate, right?
Yeah.
You could not, you would have to spend hours and hours to get gas. Thank God for that, because Buckminster Fuller says it was then that renewables just kicked in. Because anytime you put humans on the corner, you have to trust humanity, not individuals, but humanity. When
Mm,
you put people up against the corner, they will come up, because we're genius. Every human is genius. Even the children, or my nephew, who has, who was hurt at birth, and he's like a guru. It looks like he doesn't have a mind. Honestly, he is like a guru. He's pure love. He's
yeah.
45 years old. He's pure love, right?
Wow.
Now you have, and we have genius on the planet, and humans will come up with the solutions. And all the solutions are here. Pass the word. I go crazy when they talk about all these problems that we have, and all the solutions. There's entrepreneurs, there's inventors all over the world that have the solutions. And once you tap into our universe of solutions, you will become a Pied Piper like me. You will become like, hey, and you don't see me a lot because I'm not in the industry of best-selling authors, and they're all my friends, by the way. I adore them all.
Yeah.
And they are putting the word out, but I'm in a different universe. And the universe is touching the most influential people, the true influencers who can change the world, because politics and money are in bed together long ago. This is not a new thing. So don't be shocked that it is. Now it's so rampant and is so outrageously out in the open, particularly in the last, whatever, 10 years, 5 years, last year. So
Well,
now you
there's
can
much
see
more
it.
access to the information, so there's a lot more exposure to it, right? Yeah.
And the biggest thing, that if you're truly a spiritual being, do not buy into the separation.
Mm.
Every person that upsets you, every politician, this whole thing about anti-vaccines and vaccines and whatever, that is a free choice. Everybody has a free choice. Do
Right.
not make your friends wrong. Don't make me wrong for whatever I believe, which is to be vaccinated. Why? Because I was there in the 50s when we didn't have vaccine. I was there in the 80s when so many of my friends died of HIV. We didn't have vaccine. So my head at 73 years old is like, oh, I can be saved. The world can be saved. Don't make me wrong for that.
You're not.
It's in my core. And for you, if you believe the opposite, I do my best not to make you wrong, even though I have pointed out to my friends the statistic. If you really have 6 billion people that have been vaccinated, according to their numbers, 100 million should have died, but that doesn't happen. So, see, I have my opinion, they have their opinion, but I have made it so that every person that upsets me, every person that disagrees with me, every president that I want to strangle their neck, no matter who they are, is my teacher of unconditional love. Take
Yes.
a deep breath.
Mhm.
That, excuse me, asshole that drives you crazy, men, women, your husband, your wife, your children, your employees, your bosses, whoever it is, the guy down the road that sells coffee,
Yeah.
teacher of unconditional love. And when you start really getting that, it will actually turn into profits,
Right.
because people will feel safe with you. They will want to do business with you. You will get so creative because your beautiful mind is
Mm.
not going to be filled up with judgments. Come to my Ho'oponopono prayer. You'll be able to find me everywhere. And once a month, or sometimes twice a month, I do a Ho'oponopono prayer, and we just release and let go, release and let go. And then in the next breath, I'm a CEO. I'm promoting, I'm doing. If you go to my Facebook, you will see all the wild things that I do. So Fridays with Doria, we have a whole thing in there that was created to support our network that was so scared at the beginning of COVID. Now we have this beautiful library. There's billionaires, millionaires, there's people with very little money in there that will teach you mastery.
Yes.
So what is it that upsets you, that holds you back? And the last thing I want to say, your deservability. I want to talk about money really quickly.
Yes.
We have a deservability threshold, a ceiling. Forget that we're breaking the ceiling of being a woman or whatever. You know what? Create results and everybody will love you. Just like women, freaking become super successful. Get clear what your financial, what is your financial independence number, and
Mhm.
go to work. Create an economic engine. Let go, and you will see how spiritual I am. So if you go to Fridays with Doria, and they will give you a link for the special page that I'm going to give to my beautiful people here to list. And it is the magical recovery exercises, which I did at 27 years old. Because as a court reporter, I was making so much money. You have no idea. Court reporters can make a lot of money.
I
I
was going to be one. I went to court reporting school and then got a job in advertising and didn't go back. So when I knew that, I was like, oh, that's so great. But I know they do make a lot of money. Yeah.
you can make a lot of money. I was making a lot of money, but I didn't know that I knew leverage, because I leveraged everything. But I didn't know. I didn't have the word for it. I didn't know what I was doing because I wasn't a businesswoman. But many of you are so brilliant, particularly mothers that have handled even one baby. You freaking know how to multitask and you know leverage. But anyway, that's another show. So
Yes.
now you have this. My brain is just like, I have so much to say about money. So what you have to understand, that there are generalized principles out there, and the business success model that they'll give you the link for you is a little tiny book that I really need to update, but the core of it is still good. It's an old book, but you'll love it. It's free. And in there you have the business success model. If you have stuff about money, if you judge the rich, if you judge anybody around money, if you constantly have to have, and you're going to laugh, all of my godchildren and my young people go, oh, Auntie DC, please do not let anybody see your phone. Can't you afford a 14.5? I go, yeah, I can. But every time I go there, it's like, why would I want to spend an extra $1,000 or $1,400 when I can feed children with that? When it's so hard for me to change phones, and my phones are perfect, right? But the same thing with, like, I go into Louis Vuitton and salivate. I do. I go into Louis Vuitton and go, oh, okay, how much is that? Okay. All right, $8,000, $10,000. Okay, how much am I going to use that bag? How many people can I feed until hunger is eradicated? I have a gorgeous bag that doesn't cost quite $8,000, and it passes the bill. Okay. If I want to look rich, which I don't know if you really want to look rich,
Right.
people have a lot of judgments about rich people.
Yes.
So what do you really need? And many women and men are worse than women, because men buy really expensive cars, really expensive toys. We are happy with an $8,000 bag. A dude wants to have
$150,000 car.
or 650,000, like
Oh, yeah.
my dream car, right? An Aston Martin.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy one of those one of these days. I'm going to save up just to buy one of those. It's going to be my silly money one. I love those cars. So now you have to take a look at it. What is it? So you need to understand money. You're either in the process of making money, keeping the money you managed to make, or growing the money you managed to keep. And the hardest thing is not making money, is keeping the money, because we go crazy, and we've all done it. When I first made money, I did go crazy, and then it took me quite a few years, to buy. I did buy real estate pretty young. I had bought my first piece of real estate at 27, but I didn't really buy my own home until probably 10 years later. And And then, of course, being partners with Robert Kiyosaki and being around the rich dads. I did go into real estate for a while, but I have a whole other thing about real estate. And then, I did become an investor in my own business, in my own, in things that I really believe in. And what you have to understand is entrepreneurship. Whether you are an entrepreneur or you're part of an entrepreneurial team,
Mhm.
because not everyone is made an entrepreneur, and so many fail because they don't understand entrepreneurship. But the way to understand it, do Money and You, do the business school for entrepreneurs, because we are truly about business, and then you can monetize truly. But it's a whole system. It's not just marketing, it's not just branding, it's not just having a following. So when I meet my young influence, oh, I have this many people. I go, okay, how are you monetizing it? And besides monetizing it, because everybody asks that question,
Right.
where's your economic engine? So say economic engine. I know I can't hear you, but I can feel you.
Yeah.
I am now creating my economic engine for financial independence, which is this much, which will hold me for 120 years. Because if you're under 60 right now, your life expectancy is 100, unless you haven't taken care of yourself. If you're taking care of yourself like I have,
Right.
now you have 140-year life expectancy, and you better have the money for it.
Yes. Oh my God, you said so many amazing things. So many amazing things. Okay. Okay. The economic engine, so important. I never heard that before. And it's so true. And I think you're right. I think that well, I know this because I coach women a lot and I ask a lot of the questions. People don't have a grasp about what is that number for them. What is that financial freedom number for themselves? And can you talk more about the deservability threshold?
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Bring me back to that. Because what you want to do is you want to clear all the stuff that you have in your consciousness from your family. And next time that you go for Thanksgiving, to a birthday party, for Christmas, your family, start the money conversation if you dare. Most of the time, it turns out I cannot have the money conversation with my own family.
Yeah.
It's just, it's, I adore them, and they are very successful, by the way. My family is very successful. And you just we have completely different points of views, right? And so what you want to do is, I had to clear all of that. And my mama was very successful. She was her own business owner, so was my auntie. But I was surrounded by other women and role models that were not my teachers, the people that I was around. And we have set our people are very kind. They say by the time you're 7, I think it's said by the time you're 3 or 5,
Yeah.
because you're watching it. It's all going into your unconscious, into unconscious. So the more that you clear and the more that you release, you want to be neutral. That's the key. You want to be neutral. You're gonna let the rich people do what they do, and let the 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 resource poor do what they do. But if you have a heart like I do, then be a creator of tools and a creator of programs, of systems that will support the resource poor and create wealth from that. The old paradigm, which is still existing in the world, is that you take advantage of the poor. Like
Oh,
Walmart,
I
I
know.
still go to Walmarts and I buy things and they break in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything breaks, and I go, okay. And it's not China's fault, because China makes iPhones and China makes Louis Vuitton bags. China
Yes.
makes many things. The Chinese manufacturers follow the directions of the order. So it's Walmart that has made it, not China. And
Right.
so now what you have to understand is that when you become more and more successful, the more that you spread the love, and you can't do it if you have a lot of stuff in there. So do the magical exercises, which we'll give you a link to. The other thing is that you asked something very important. When I was very young, I heard as a court reporter that $300,000 was like this really groovy number, right? A year. And I loved it. And I thought, oh my God, that's $25,000 a month. Oh
Mhm.
my God, could I party with $25,000 a month?
Yeah.
That was in my 20s. And it stuck for a while. And then after I made I reached the $300,000 a year. I
Mhm.
was like, now the game had really changed and things were different. And like now, I have a mama in a nursing home.
Yes.
And, and then I go, okay, what kind of nursing home? If I end up in a home like this, but I know I'm not, because I already have planned all these things with all these friends that we're going to keep each other company. And we all have properties in different parts of the world, and we're going to take each other there. But just in case anything goes wrong, okay, what is the cost of a beautiful nursing home? 15,000 a month? Oh, okay, 20,000 a month. Okay, there is a new account in my life, which is
Yes.
okay. And how much do I need if I live to be 100, 120? How much do I need? So that just lane alone is a new lane for me. Aside from, so if everything goes wrong, now I could also go with my Social Security, because my accountants made me pay Social Security. I went into this, oh, I don't want to pay Social Security. Oh, I had the most strict accountants and attorneys, because you have to have a good financial team. I'm so,
Yes.
I'm so happy I did that, you guys. I didn't pick it up until I was 70, but it's so sweet, because that with just one of my little things, I can go to Mexico and have a fantastic life if that's all I have. So
Yeah.
see, what is financial independence to you? What is the lifestyle that you have? Ask
Yes.
all these questions. What is it that how do you want to live? What do you want to be doing? And then, of course, a lot of the money that I manifest and create and have generated and have an economic engine, a licensing. I am a major licensing person, because those are
Yes.
royalties business.
Yes.
By the way, it all went away when COVID came. But
Yes.
and you have to live below your means.
Mhm.
This whole thing about looking good is so bad. It
Right.
is. Oh, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Live below your means. Do figure this out, because the universe does not understand ambiguity. I say this all the time. You've got to give it the specificity. And if you know your deservability threshold and you figure out your financial independence number, and we are geniuses, as Doria said earlier, like we already have all the knowledge. We have it. The information's flowing like crazy. It's all available. You can ask better questions and then receive the information and get the answers on how to do it. Like, you didn't with your mom, God forbid that's the situation, but that might be something that you have to do. Well, you're asking yourself different questions now on how to attract, bring that in, earn that money, and have it fit in with the lifestyle that you've designed and you
By
want
the
for.
way, I already have a handle. It's
I'm
just that
sure you do.
But I do, but I want to create it now, because just in case, because when COVID came, my sweetie and I, we were going to be fine between the two of us. We were going to be fine. We didn't need to make, and then the government came along and they made it really easy for you and all these things. What a beautiful, the governments around the world were very sweet. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm really, please forgive me for this, but they really stepped up during a horrific time that could have been so horrific for so many of us. So
Yes,
now, and not for me, but I said many of us in humanity name, I'm handled already. I already can retire tomorrow. We live on Maui and in San Diego. I'm handled. I already handled all of that. But as soon as I saw, and Mama only caught, I call it catching dementia, because it felt like she caught it. She was fine before COVID. Within 3 months, 6 months, this thing kicked in. out of loneliness, and she wouldn't live with us. She, mamas that are in their 90s do what they want, and you can't drag them to your house.
Right.
That's called that's called elderly abuse. If they don't want to go somewhere, you got to go with what they want. We
Right.
had nurses, we had things for her, and then finally she had to go into a home, and we couldn't have her in our home, not
Yeah.
unless we had nurses 24 hours, and she would still be lonely because we're so busy. She's so happy in the nursing home. And
Yeah.
then by the way, I must teach everybody this. My sister and I, projections of nursing homes, we probably should have had her there a year earlier, and she would have been so much happier. She's so happy now because she has company, she has the nurses, and she has all these friends. And
Mhm. Yeah.
so projection, look, I am looking in my life right now at all the projections, all the beliefs that I have. I go, oh, let me just question that assumption that I have made about that.
Right.
And it's very powerful.
It is. It is really powerful. Oh my gosh, you've just given us so much information. What a fascinating conversation. I'm thinking of things in a new way. I hope everybody who's watching this or listening to this is also doing that. Let us know your thoughts and feedback. And we do. Oh, Doria, I could talk to you all day, but I am telling you right here and now, I'm coming to Money and You. I wanted to go last time and I had a conflict with my schedule, but I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and now I'm doing it. I'm making this the time to do it. And I'm actually glad you're not doing it in San Diego, because that makes me get out of town and be totally devoted to it. Right? All
Well,
right.
you have to, you are totally devoted even right here in town, because that's the name of the game. For 3.5 days we have you.
Yeah.
And that the network, by the way, that is a very successful network. Just
Yeah.
remember, you want to have access with Money and You have global access to over 200,000 graduates. Not that, I mean, many of them have even left this world because we've been doing this for 44 years. But
Yeah.
our graduates in the Asia Pacific region, in Australia, in Singapore, Malaysia, we're going to Vietnam for the first time. We have graduates in Cambodia, in Indonesia, you name all the cities, Hong Kong, Singapore, and in China, all over China, Taiwan. So what you want to do is remember, that's my next thing. I'm going to give you another link for my access to cash information, because the access to cash book, I'm going to go into its third or fourth reiteration. This
Yeah.
time it will be printed, not just printed by Amazon, but actually printed. And
Mhm.
it's access. What you want to do, what Money and You does, it gives you tremendous access to the world. And just so you know, and for those of you who may be temporarily out of cash, no more BROKE words. Okay, that is not good for
Right.
you to say your spirit. Oh, I am BROKE. Never. The universe knows I'm just quoting. You are temporarily out of cash. We actually do installments. There's a certain basic charge that we have, and then you can do installments so that you can be there. But it's really interesting because some very successful people are temporarily out of cash. It's like people go, well, you shouldn't have people there. And they wrinkle their nose like this. They go
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
And when people wrinkle their nose around me, I'm not attracted to that. Okay. Oh, you shouldn't have them there because they can't afford to go. I go, clearly, you haven't been temporarily out of cash.
Right.
Obviously, you're not an entrepreneur that was doing fantastic one day and the next day you're
Yes.
not doing so good. Some of those people that I give in installments to have gotten back on their feet, come back and given me the greatest gifts and go, thank you for being there for me when I needed it. I'm
Yeah.
back on top.
And shouldn't the people who are temporarily out of cash actually be the people who are in the room, right? It's open for everybody. It's open for
Well, we
everybody.
have a lot of really successful people because I am tapped into Jason Estes. If people go to Fridays with Doria, and we'll give you a link to that too, they will see Jason Estes and Jeremy, and we're really moving. It's speaking of technology, quantum energy, quantum, how it affects,
Yes.
all the biohacking that is going on, all the new machines that heal you. They have a bed that completely does magical things. So,
Yeah.
excuse me, the technology not only for knowledge. And
Yeah.
by the way, I did an article, and come to the Best You Expo in LA. You
Yes.
better come to that, Diane,
Mhm.
because
I
it's
will.
going to be fantastic. And I did an article for the LA Tribune, and I checked it. And then I checked another article that I was writing, and the AI system, the chat one, GPX or whatever it's called, Chat GPX. I never can remember the name.
It's Chat GBT.
Yes,
GPT. Sorry.
yes, I must remember that. It
So
came back with no fixing of my article, and he came back with all of these resources on sufficiency, which is
amazing.
great. And now I'm going to create a whole web page on Money and You /sufficiency later,
That's
because the AI gave me all these resources that would have taken me months to find.
yeah.
So use technology for what it is made to do. In consciousness,
That's
machines will never have consciousness. Us humans will be at top of the heap because we're tapped into each other and consciousness. We have the greatest network. We have the greatest internal internet on the planet, in the universe, which is to
right.
connect with each other.
So beautiful. And we do have to go. We only have a couple more minutes here. And I want to thank you. You just dropped so much information today, and beautiful way to segue that around about using that, the technology and the connection and everything. And we're going to have links for everything, all your gifts, how to go to Money and You, and your book, and Fridays with Doria, all the things we'll have in the show notes. You're getting some love in the chat over here. And I want to thank you, Doria, for spending your time with us here at I Have Today. I love you and adore you. And I know that I'll be talking to you very, very soon. Thanks so much for being here.
Aloha.
Aloha. Mwah. Take care. Oh, incredible interview. So good. I could talk to her and listen to her all day long. Just brilliant. Well, we are going to have links for all of that. I do hope that you all are going to go to Money and You, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this. Please do share this and add comments, share it with your communities, and everybody needs to have this information and have this education. So we only have a couple minutes left. So I am just going to do a quick, instead of doing my regular mantra meditation, because I don't have enough time to do that, I just want to stop for a second and ground in everything that Doria said today with just a few mantra affirmations. Okay, so take a deep breath in, pull it all the way down to your root chakra. Hold it, hold it. And now breathe out for the count of 8. Remember, our intention statement today is, I have today to solve large-scale social issues. I have today to raise my deservability threshold. I have today to understand what my financial independence number is. I have today to understand my economic engine. I have today to learn more about my relationship with money and the impact that I want to make on the world. I have today to think bigger than I ever have before, and how I'm actually going to spend my money. Is my money better spent in ways that could serve the world, feed the world, educate the world, help the world, change the world? I'm going to use my life in this way and understand that there are generalized principles, and understand the power of precession and the ripple effect. Thank you to Doria for being here. Thank you to her mentors who led her on her way. Thank you that she woke up at the age of 27 and listened to her purpose and followed that direction that led her to change the lives of millions and millions of people. And now today I'm one of them. And I'm going to understand precession and use that ripple effect to help change the lives of millions and millions as well. I have today to love my life, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank my beautiful guest, Dame Doria Cordova, for her beautiful heart and soul today, sharing all the wisdom. I mean, it was nugget after nugget after nugget. I am going to go back and watch this show multiple times. I hope that you do. Remember, we're on the E360 television network. You can also find me at Diane Forster Official everywhere. And I Have Today with Diane Forster. This show is also streamed on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And it's also a podcast on all streaming platforms. So I'm sending you so much love and light. Have a beautiful today, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.